Picture this. You have been put in a group project. Or, maybe you've just been assigned to a massive cross-border integration department at your firm.
Oh, the classic high-stakes assignment.
Right. You look around the table, and everyone in the room is highly educated. They are, by all accounts, incredibly smart.
Yeah, the best of the best on paper.
Exactly. And yet, despite all that collective brain power, the whole thing is just a total disaster. Deadlines are completely blown, egos are clashing left and right, and you are just left sitting there wondering why a room full of brilliant professionals cannot agree on a single basic spreadsheet.
It's a profoundly frustrating experience. And the craziest part, it is happening in boardrooms all over the world every single day, and it's costing companies millions.
But what if the reason your team is self-destructing has absolutely nothing to do with their professional skills, but rather, a hidden psychological role that nobody even knew they were supposed to be playing?
That is the exact blind spot we are unpacking today.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got a fascinating stack of research today centered around the ACCA Business and Technology, or BT paper, specifically looking at the importance of teams.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. By the end of this, you're going to know how to diagnose any failing team, understand the psychological friction keeping them stuck, and, know exactly how to secure those crucial exam marks when the examiner asks you to fix it.
Because they definitely will ask you to fix it.
Oh, for sure. Whether you are fitting this in on a crowded commute in London or taking your lunch break in Singapore, this deep dive was built specifically for you.
So to kick this off, let's establish what team dynamics actually means in a practical sense. Stripped of all the academic jargon, it's simply the study of how groups systematically develop, mature, and eventually terminate.
Right.
It provides the framework for understanding how balancing behavioral personalities and, not just stacking impressive job titles dictates whether a business actually succeeds or fails.
Okay, I like to think of a team like a high-performance engine. You can have all the premium, expensive parts, and those are everyone's professional skills, right? Like their advanced degrees, their decades of experience.
Yeah, the shiny stuff.
Exactly. But if those parts aren't assembled in the exact right sequence and balanced perfectly, the engine doesn't just fail to start. It violently seizes up and smokes.
That is a great visual, but let's push that engine analogy a little further, because here's where we find our first truly counterintuitive fact from the research.
Okay, lay on me.
In that engine, a little bit of friction early on isn't a design flaw. It's actually a requirement. Conflict is inherently good.
Wait, really?
Yeah. The early phase of a team, which behavioral researchers call the storming phase, characterized by arguments, competition, and the outright rejection of ideas, is a deliberate, constructive, and completely essential step for building long-term trust.
Wait, hold on. I have to challenge that a bit. You're telling me that people aggressively arguing over who is in charge or whose idea is best isn't a sign the team is failing, but a mandatory stepping stone.
It sounds backward, I know.
Because when you're in those meetings, it just feels like toxic dysfunction.
It feels awful in the moment, absolutely. But think about the psychology behind it. If you don't have that initial conflict, you don't establish boundaries.
Oh, I see.
You don't learn how people react under pressure, and you never build genuine, resilient trust. Without storming, you just get polite, ineffective compliance. People nodding in a meeting and then ignoring the plan the second they log off.
That makes a lot of sense. Polite compliance is where good ideas go to die. So if we connect this to the bigger picture of the syllabus, why do examiners love this specific topic so much? Like, why is this taking up so much real estate in the BT paper?
Because globally, real businesses don't generally collapse from a simple math error. They collapse because cross-border and cross-departmental matrix teams just break down.
Right, the human element.
Exactly. Supply chain isn't talking to marketing. IT is warring with finance, and that causes severe cascading impacts on the bottom line. The examiner knows that as a modern accounting or business professional, your technical skills are largely useless if you can't function within and, lead a multinational team structure.
I imagine that translates to the exam in a very specific way, right? They aren't just asking for definitions.
Not at all. Examiners love scenario-based questions where a corporate team is severely underperforming and you, the student, must act as the diagnostician.
So you're playing doctor for a broken team.
Basically, yeah. You have to read a paragraph of corporate misery and explain exactly why it's failing using specific developmental stages or identifying missing behavioral roles to provide the solution.
It turns out Examiners know perfectly well that locking a bunch of highly strung, dominant extroverts in a boardroom together is just a recipe for a corporate cage match. And they want to see if you can step in and referee it.
They absolutely do, which is why we need to understand the underlying mechanics of how these teams actually evolve. The writer Bruce Tuckman proposed that teams don't just magically start performing on day one.
Oh, definitely not.
As an ACCA student, you've likely lived through this in your study groups or your office, but Tuckman actually codified the misery into 5 distinct chronological stages.
Let me guess. It starts with everyone being overly polite.
Yes. Stage 1 is forming. The task is usually unclear, people are feeling each other out, and it's quite wasteful and time-consuming. Nobody wants to step on any toes.
Like the awkward small talk at a corporate networking event before anyone actually does any real business.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
totally surface level.
Yeah.
Then comes storming, which we just explored. The gloves come off, conflict, competition, ideas being challenged.
Right, the cage match phase.
Exactly. Now, if they survive that friction, they move to stage 3, which is norming. The dust settles, routines are established, trust develops, behavior patterns lock in, and the team finally agrees on exactly how decisions will be made.
So they've built the rules of engagement. They figured out how to disagree productively.
And once they have that, they reach stage 4, performing. This is where the team operates effectively. Issues of adjustment are fully resolved, and they are actually hitting their KPIs.
Sounds ideal.
It is, but there is a 5th stage, and this one is an absolute trap in corporate restructuring scenarios. It's called dorming.
Dorming, like a dormant volcano.
Yes. The team has been together too long, they become entirely too comfortable, they lose interest in the actual task, and self-preservation, protecting their jobs, protecting their cozy routines, becomes the dominant issue in the group. Innovation completely stops.
Simply put, teams don't just magically happen. They evolve through a predictable, sometimes incredibly messy life cycle.
Exactly.
But reaching the performing stage is impossible if you have the wrong people on the bus. Which brings us to the roles they play. I mean, if every single group goes through these exact same 5 stages, why do some teams survive the storming phase and thrive, while others just explode and never recover? Is it just luck?
It's not luck at all. And that brings us to the mechanism that actually dictates survival. This is Dr. Meredith Belbin's theory of team roles. Belbin suggests that the reason teams explode is that they misunderstand what makes a person valuable.
How so?
Well, every single team member actually fulfills 2 entirely separate roles at the exact same time. The primary role is their professional skill. It's the technical function they were appointed for.
The reason they passed the job interview in the first place, like being the lead software engineer, the senior auditor, or the tax specialist.
Exactly. But the secondary role is their preferred behavior pattern within a group. How do their brains process information? How do they interact with others? Success relies purely on balancing these secondary behavioral roles, not just throwing a bunch of technical experts into a room.
Simply put, your job title gets you into the room, but your personality decides how you function within the team.
That is exactly it.
I can see how HR departments get this completely wrong. They hire for a massive project, and they find 5 brilliant accountants with incredible CVs. They nailed the primary role. But the team completely fails because HR didn't account for the secondary behavioral roles.
And they accidentally hired 5 people who all psychologically need to be the undisputed boss.
That is the classic failure state. So what exactly are these hidden behavioral profiles that can make or break a multinational project? If I'm trying to diagnose a failing team, what am I looking for?
Belbin described 8 core roles, with a 9th added later for modern project work. Instead of just listing them, let's group them by how they actually function, because that's where the friction happens. First, you have the action group, the doers.
Okay, who's in the action group?
You have the shaper. They are highly strung, dominant, and extroverted. They are completely task-driven to the point of passion, a total force for action. They thrive on pressure.
Hearing you describe the shaper, I'm suddenly realizing that was my old boss at my first firm. The one constantly banging on the table saying, "We need to launch this yesterday." It drove me crazy, but now I see why senior management put him there. He actually got things moving.
Exactly. But a shaper needs a company worker, sometimes called an implementer. This is your administrator. They're the ones who take the shaper's frantic energy and turn those ideas into actual manageable tasks.
Got it.
They are efficient, trustworthy, and completely unexcitable. They hate chaos.
The unsung hero who actually builds the spreadsheet, sets the calendar invites, and organizes the chaos into a timeline.
And rounding out the action group is the completer finisher. They obsess over the details, they push the team to meet targets, ensure urgency, and double-check everything for errors before it goes out the door. They have a massive internal standard for quality.
So that's the action group. Shaper drives it, company worker organizes it, completer finisher makes sure it's perfect. Who's next?
Next, we have the thinking group, the people solving the complex problems. First is the plant. The plant is an introvert. Invariably intellectually bright and highly imaginative, they are the primary source of truly original, outside-the-box ideas.
But because they are introverted, they probably aren't the ones shouting over the shaper in the meeting, right? Their ideas might easily get lost if someone doesn't deliberately ask for them.
Spot on, which is why pairing them with the wrong people causes explosions. For example, another member of the thinking group is the monitor evaluator.
Okay.
Analytically gifted, but decidedly not creative. They can come across as tactless and aloof because their entire psychological function in the group is to examine ideas, strip away the emotion, and ruthlessly spot the flaws.
Oh, I see the friction there. The plant comes up with a brilliant, fragile, imaginative new idea, and the monitor evaluator immediately rips it to shreds with logic. No wonder people hate group projects.
It's a chemical clash. The plant feels attacked, and the monitor evaluator just thinks they are doing their job. And the third thinker is the specialist. This was added later. They are brought in purely for specific expert advice when the team lacks competence in a niche area. They only care about their narrow field.
So if we have the doers and the thinkers, we need someone to keep them from killing each other.
That is the people group, the social glue. First is the coordinator. They provide the mature leadership. They preside over the group, clarify goals, and coordinate activities. They are balanced, disciplined, and very good at delegating.
They aren't necessarily the smartest person in the room, but they know how to get the best out of everyone else.
Precisely. Then you have the team worker, the silent, supportive member. They are deeply concerned with group maintenance and keeping the peace. Very popular, very empathetic, but often only noticed when they are absent and the team suddenly starts fracturing.
They're the glue.
Yes. And finally, the resource investigator. An extrovert, very popular, constantly networking. They are relaxed and bring in external contacts and external resources, though they aren't usually the ones generating the original ideas like the plant.
Simply put, a winning team needs the idea generators, the critics, the doers, and the peacekeepers, all balanced perfectly together.
That is exactly right.
I love looking at this like an orchestra. If you have 9 brilliant drummers, let's say 9 shapers, they're going to make a ton of noise and have incredible aggressive energy, but there's going to be absolutely no music. You desperately need the string section, the team workers to harmonize, and you need the conductor, the coordinator, to actually bring it all together.
The orchestra is a good visual, but honestly, it's a bit too neat. In the real corporate world, you don't get to choose your instruments. HR hands you 5 drummers, a guy with a flute and a broken violin, and says, play a symphony or you're all fired.
That is a terrifyingly accurate description of modern management. So let's see how this mismatched orchestra actually plays in a high-stakes, real-world gig. Let's look at a scenario that listeners anywhere from London to Lagos will recognize. Imagine a multinational tech company is merging with a huge regional distributor.
Okay.
The board forms a cross-border integration team to combine their massive software systems.
A classic high-pressure matrix structure scenario.
Exactly. Now let's look at this from 2 perspectives to see how the psychology breaks down. First, imagine you are an enthusiastic 23-year-old junior analyst on this team. Behaviorally, your Belbin role is the plant.
Oh, the quiet idea generator.
Yeah. You are sitting there with brilliant, imaginative, totally original ways to integrate these 2 complicated software platforms. But you feel completely sidelined because every single meeting you attend is just pure, unadulterated chaos. Nobody is listening to your ideas.
And if we look at the exact same meeting from the other side of the table, let's view it from the senior project director's angle. The director is pulling their hair out. They did what they thought was right. They selected the absolute best IT engineers available from both companies. They hired flawlessly for those primary technical roles.
But behaviorally, it's a nightmare.
A complete nightmare. Behaviorally, the team consists almost entirely of monitor evaluators and shapers. So what happens functionally? The young plant throws out an idea.
And the monitor evaluators jump on it.
Instantly and tactlessly. They spot the technical flaws in it and shoot it down before it can breathe. Meanwhile, the highly strung shapers are dominating the arguments, aggressively pushing for immediate action and demanding they just start coding something, anything, despite the flaws.
It's just nonstop friction.
Sure.
Because nobody is acting as the company worker to actually organize these aggressive tasks into a schedule, and nobody is playing the team worker to smooth over the bruised egos and keep the peace. The entire integration project is completely gridlocked. If we look at Tuckman's stages, they are permanently trapped in the storming phase.
And here is where it gets really interesting for the exam. Let's say the tension gets so bad that a key member, maybe one of those aggressive shapers, just quits in frustration. Or maybe the external environment shifts. A new international compliance law passes, forcing a fundamental change to the software architecture. According to Tuckman, what happens to the psychology of the team?
Oh, they don't just stay stuck in stormy. They instantly revert right back to the beginning. Stage one, the forming stage.
Exactly. Any change in membership or any massive fundamental external change forces the team to regress. An ACCA exam question will describe this exact type of corporate chaos.
Oh, it's very practical.
Very. The examiner will give you this paragraph of dysfunction and ask you to identify exactly which Belbin role is missing, for instance, noting that they desperately need a coordinator, or ask you to diagnose why the team suddenly regressed to an earlier Tuckman stage when that senior staff member quit.
Knowing the theory is great, but here's exactly where I see students throw away easy marks in the exam hall. Let's talk about the biggest pitfall.
The single most common mistake students make is assuming that a good team means everyone gets along perfectly from day one. Because of that false assumption, they absolutely panic when an exam scenario shows conflict.
Right. You read a scenario where a team is arguing about roles, challenging ideals, and rejecting each other's proposals.
Right.
Because it feels bad in real life, your immediate instinct is to write down, this team is totally dysfunctional and failing, they're doing a bad job.
Do not fall for this trap. You have to recognize that this conflict is the storming phase. Yes, it is wasteful. Yes, it is time-consuming. But it is an absolutely essential and highly constructive phase required to build long-term operational trust.
It's almost like a trick question if they don't argue.
If an exam scenario shows a team in complete blissful harmony on day one, it's either a trick question or they've already hit the dorming phase.
Just coasting along.
They're just coasting, focused entirely on self-preservation, totally apathetic while the company burns down around them. Harmony does not automatically equal performance.
That is such a crucial mindset shift. Let's turn this knowledge into an unfair advantage. Here are 3 sharp, specific techniques for the exam. Your exam edge.
Tip number 1, spot the missing role. If a scenario describes a team that is failing to meet deadlines, despite having incredible ideas and great social cohesion, actively scan the text for the missing completer, finisher, or company worker. The examiner is testing your eye for behavioral balance, not just technical skill.
Makes sense. Tip number 2, watch for the regression trigger. Examiners love to throw in a sudden staff change, a resignation, or a new external rule halfway through the scenario. When you see that trigger, instantly recognize that the team will revert to an earlier Tuckman stage. They do not maintain performing status when the foundation shifts.
Tip number 3, don't confuse the plant with the resource investigator. Examiners exploit this specific confusion constantly because they both bring things to the team. Remember the mechanism. The plant brings original, internal ideas and is typically an introvert, while the resource investigator brings external contacts and is a relaxed extrovert. They are fundamentally different sources of value.
To the 23-year-old student fitting this deep dive in on the train right now, you see group dynamics every single day of your life. You see it in your university study groups, you see it in your friend circles. You already intuitively know how these personalities clash and interact. You just need to apply these official Belbin and Tuckman labels to the drama you naturally observe.
And for the veteran manager listening on your lunch break, you have lived through these dysfunctional matrix integration teams. You have sat in those chaotic, gridlocked meetings, wondering why nothing is getting done. Trust your hard-earned experience. Apply this theoretical framework to the genuine corporate misery you've survived, and absolutely crush this exam.
So the next time you find yourself in a room full of brilliant professionals who can't agree on a basic spreadsheet, you'll know exactly which phase of storming you're suffering through, and exactly whose behavioral profile is missing from the table.
A successful team isn't built on a lack of conflict. It's built on a perfect balance of personalities successfully navigating that conflict.
Before we go, consider this provocative thought. As AI and automation continue to rapidly take over our primary technical roles, the coding, the data entry, the heavy math, your secondary behavioral role, your ability to be the human glue, the shaper, or the empathetic team worker might soon become the only reason a company actually hires you. Food for thought. To everyone listening globally, we know you are balancing demanding real-world careers, families, and complex lives while pushing through the rigorous ACCA qualification. We see the work you're putting in, and we deeply respect the grind. If this deep dive helped you today, please follow the show on Spotify and leave a review. It really helps us out. Keep studying, keep analyzing.
Thank you for listening.